There's another new ACC breakup rumor, and it involves Big 12 private equity money. Chris Graham here on the video. We're going to talk about, it's that time of year, and it has been for a few weeks for some in the sports blogosphere and the radio and podcast sphere. It's been longer than a few weeks. That time of year between the end of college basketball season and the start of college football practice, that you got to fill your content with something. Me, I guess I'm fortunate that the college sports program that I cover has good baseball. A lot of folks don't read and watch stuff about baseball, but enough do that it justifies the time. And I love baseball, so it's good for me. But for a lot of the folks who want to, generate clicks and downloads, you got to do something. So one of the things you do is you talk about, or you either talk about what's going on with realignment in college sports, or you kind of just throw stuff out there and see what sticks. I'm not casting aspersions. It's one of those things, it's because what we do is a business. So I'm not saying they're bad, these guys are bad people, but a lot with the ACC, and it's been fueled because there is some actual slight bit of activity. Florida State and Clemson have sued the ACC. Florida State down in Florida, Clemson in South Carolina, then the ACC countersuing both of those in North Carolina. There's all these jurisdictional issues. I mean, this is just I'm just I'm going through some legal rigmarole there to say there's lots of stuff going on in courts that, I mean, eventually it's not going to really mean anything because it's they'll at some point they'll have to get moved to the federal level when you have all these state suits going on. Nobody's going to be able to decide anything at the state level when you talk about a conference that's now spreading across the country, literally, with with Cal and Stanford joining this year. Um, so yeah, it's going to have to end up going to federal court. I don't think it ever gets there. These are just, shots in the wind to, start the negotiation process if Florida State and Clemson actually even want to negotiate their way out of the ACC. I don't even know if that's actually the case, because where do you go? And that's where we're going with this particular video and podcast here. It's famously the case with the ACC schools that when they signed their latest TV deal and granted media rights to make the TV deal possible back in 2015, 2016, that to bind themselves together, the schools all agreed that there'd be a few things they'd have to do to make sure that nobody would just up and leave. One was an exit fee equivalent to 3 years of the TV rights. That would be about $130 million. And then also you bind your media rights to the ACC through the end of the TV deal, which is 2036. So, 40 million a year roughly, times, we're still in 2024. So 12 more years, you're talking close to $500 million there. It'd be somewhere between what, 500, $600 million to get out of this deal. And so, if you're Florida State and Clemson and you think you're getting shortchanged in the ACC, and you want to explore your other options, whatever other options there may be, the SEC, Greg Sankey is saying he doesn't want to expand. The Big Ten is not signaling it wants to expand. I don't see why they would. They've already both grown to big numbers. They've already signed and negotiated and signed very lucrative TV deals. Adding another school or two or four or six, whatever the case would be, if the ACC were to break up, would lead to renegotiations there. Would that mean more money for each of the current member schools in the SEC or Big Ten? Probably not. And even if it would be marginal, and would it be worth all the trouble? And so now, that being the case, the speculation being fueled by people who need people to click and download is on the Big 12. And the Big 12 now, and this is also, there's a kernel of truth to what's going on there. The Big 12 is talking, a company from one of the Scandinavian countries, a private equity company wants to buy a slice of the Big 12, they've offered something like between 800 million and $1 billion for 15 to 20% of the Big 12. And supposedly then this money could be used, some of it could be used to lure in schools like Florida State and Clemson to be members of the Big 12, which is now a 16-member conference. And then this could somehow factor into that conference, which is fourth among the Big Four that are left now with the dissolution of the Pac-12. That could help the Big 12 grow up and be one of the, instead of the Big Four, the Big Three, right? So, okay, that's where we are with this. All right, so here's where I'll urinate on the idea. I'm trying to stay on the good side of YouTube on this. One, questions I would have for this: why would the Big 12 get this financial windfall and then use it to basically add more mouths to feed to their family? That's a question. That's a legit question. Me, if I'm going to get some money, I'm going to figure out a way to just divide that money up amongst myself, my current self, whatever selves, and be happy with that. And that would be the first thing I would do, instead of saying let's add Florida State and Clemson. Let's see what we can do for the actual Big 12, right? Another question, I think that's an important one. If the Big 12 has this private equity firm that says, hey, we think that there's value, why wouldn't every other, if this actually works out, and there's still there's a lot of stuff that has to be worked out there, including the member schools. The presidents of the member schools haven't signed on to this idea yet, which would have to happen before the conference could sell naming rights and part of the conference to a private equity firm. But if the Big 12 has a suitor, and the Big 12 is the fourth of the Big Four, why wouldn't the ACC, Big Ten, and SEC also then be able to say, hey, there's a market out here. Why don't you do the same thing for us? And if that's the case, then does the ACC solve its money problems that way? I mean, Jim Phillips, ACC commissioner, isn't already working on something like this. I can't imagine that's not the case. I can't imagine that Jim Ryan, the UVA president, who's the chair this year of the ACC, was it the board of presidents they call it, I think. Why wouldn't they be working on this themselves? And it'd be a question probably for Jim Phillips at the ACC kickoff coming up next week. Are you working on something like this? It's not, the Big 12 is not the only group that's going to have interest from private equity. And they discovered something else. They've discovered a way to make money, and then everybody else going to do the same thing. So the Big 12 is not going. The Big 12 doesn't have an advantage here, is what I'm trying to get at there. Again, that agreement that's in place is still something that I can't get past. You can say you can negotiate, and people like to say, "Oh yeah, well they can just negotiate." Well, yeah, you can negotiate anything, but you have to have something. We have to have leverage. Is the term I guess I was struggling for there, to be able to negotiate. So if you're Florida State and Clemson, you have no leverage right now. That's why that's why they filed suit in court, in their respective state courts. They're trying to get, some sort of I'm struggling for another term here, some sort of a minor legal victory. That's not the word I was looking for, but I was looking for a better adjective. But I mean, they are looking for whatever small legal victory they can get in their state court, that they can say, see, we got you over a barrel now. You need to negotiate with us. They're not going to get that. And so out of a state court, especially again with all these dueling suits and all these different states and everything else. So that's the first point of leverage they're trying to get. Otherwise, there's no leverage. The ACC's got the leverage. The ACC's got contracts that are signed. They're not going to just let Florida State and Clemson out. And Florida State and Clemson, rattling their sabers as much as they want. They sign deals. They don't like the deals now, but you signed the deal. The deal's in place. And then a third point here is the ESPN, and this is the one I think it's at least equal to, and maybe even more important than the granted media rights, if you're ESPN and you've got the ACC's media rights through, their broadcast rights, the ability to make money off of ACC TV, football, basketball, whatever else, through 2036, why would you break that up to allow schools to the member schools to, because all those member schools aren't going to go to the other wholly owned ESPN media contract conference, SEC. The current 17 members of the ACC aren't going to all go to the SEC. Even if you say, okay, well, we don't want all 17, we just want the good ones to go to the SEC. Okay, that's the conference that the ESPN owns the media rights to, and it's something like 2029 or 2030. It's not even like in perpetuity that they own those broadcast rights to. But why would you? So if you break up the ACC and your ESPN, maybe you get a few schools to go to the SEC, which says it doesn't want to expand. Some are then going to go to the Big 12 and some to the Big 10 theoretically. The Big 12, the media rights are split between ESPN and Fox, and the Big 10, the media rights are all owned by Fox. So you've got you got a good deal right now with the ACC. I mean, the ACC signed 8 years ago for what is now under market in terms of what the school should be getting per year, and the conference should be getting per year. ESPN's got a good deal. Why would they tear up a good deal to have to pay more to those schools to go to the SEC and then lose some of those schools to a TV network that they don't make money from? They don't make money when Fox makes money. Fox makes money when Fox makes money. So none of this makes any sense to me. Why ESPN would accede to it? Why that there's any leverage right now for Florida State and Clemson, who don't have any standing offers to go anywhere else. Why it's private equity money when private equity money could buy, if there's a precedent set with the Big 12, anyone could do it and would do it at the drop of a hat. This is fun discussion, but it's not, nothing's moving. Nothing's moving in this direction. So hate to rain on your parade. If you're, a lot of people who watch me on video, listen to me on podcast, are people who are UVA sports fans. No, I don't think we're going to the SEC or Big 10. We don't want to go to the Big 12. None of this is happening. It's just not happening. I mean, at least in this current form. I don't see, I don't see anything happening until 2036. And by that point, I'm probably retired. So anyway, hey, if you got any questions for me, any ideas for me, you want to tell me I'm wrong about this, whatever the case may be, feel free to drop me a line at chris@augustafreepress.com. You can also just comment here on the YouTube stream. I get notifications whenever those are done. So love to hear from you. Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.